Tutorial, we're going to create this Coke can with the water droplets, this Coke can scene. And this is what we'll have when we're done here. And here's an example of me doing it before and how it looked. How do I press play? Hide that. There we go. Hope you enjoy this tutorial. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's get into it. In this tutorial, we're going to create this specific shot. Now, we're going to do it the lazy way so we can make sure that this is quick. The first thing you want to do is go into Google, and you want to, number one, type in Coke can label, and you can download this Coke can label by right-clicking and saving it. The other thing you want to download is an image of a Coke can. Find one that you like, and an image of the top of a Coke can. We're not going to focus too much on the top of the Coke can in this tutorial because, as you can tell, it's not really needed. We just got the basics there. Once you've done that, you can open up Blender and we can get started. Select your default cube, press X, delete, numpad 7 for top orthographic view. Once you've got this set up, you can press Shift A, and we're going to add an image known as a reference. Find the image that you've downloaded, and we're in top orthographic view, so we're going to add this image quickly. We're not going to really use this one, but we're just adding it anyways. And we're going to create a new collection called images, and we're going to put this into there. And we're going to rename this top can. That's what the image is about. And now we're going to go to the object data properties of this image, and we're going to click on back for the depth. And the opacity I'm going to put on 0.5. Once you've done that, we're going to bring this down. I'm going to press GZ minus 10. And if I press numpad 7, top orthographic view, I still see it. Last thing I want to do is click on this filter icon and click on this selectable option. And I'm going to make sure that this top can is not selectable. Now I'm going to press numpad 1 for front orthographic view. I'm going to press Shift A, image reference, and we're going to find a can that we're going to use. In this case, I'm using this can here. First thing I'm going to do is set the depth to the back, make the opacity 0.5. I'm going to rename this to side can, and then I'm going to press GZ, lift this up till about here. Let's zoom in. That looks about right. And then I'm going to press GY10. GY10, so I moved it back. And then we're going to make sure it's not selectable. Now that we've done that, we can create a new collection called primary. And we're just going to try and add a cylinder and try and create this can with the cylinder. We're going to turn on X-ray mode. I'm going to press GZ, bring this up. And this is just a standard cylinder. I'm going to press S to scale. As you'll notice that this image, which you'll get with many reference images, isn't perfectly aligned. It's slightly skew, and that's perfectly fine. We'll just keep that in mind. So I'll scale it out like that. And then I'm going to press SZ to only scale it on the Z axis. And you'll notice that the cans usually have the same bottom as they do the top, or more or less the same. So keeping that in mind, I'm just going to focus on the top part, and then I'm going to remove the bottom, and then, yeah, you'll see. So now that we've done this, and the side that I'm going to focus on is this side here, so I'm going to press G. Just chuck it to about there. And that does look like the halfway mark. And then I'm going to press Tab to go into edit mode. And I am going to select the top, press 3 for face select. Choose the top piece here, turn this back on, numpad 1, and you'll notice that this has a slide, so it's got a point about over here. You can see it over here, where it bends to, and then it goes up. So we're going to press E to extrude to that point, which is about here, S to scale it inwards, and then we're going to go E to extrude to about here, S to scale it inwards, and then it's going to be just straight up from here, E, and that's good enough for me. We're not going to go crazy. Don't worry about the other side. We can only work with one side because it's not perfectly straight. And now that we've done this, we can press E to extrude, S to scale, and we can just bring this out to about here. And then we're going to press E to extrude, so we can get this top piece done, which I'm going to just chuck to about there. And the other thing I want to do is press Control R, create a cut over here directly in the middle, and then I'm going to press Control R and just create 4 more cuts over here, which will help later on. It will make sense. You can make less cuts here, maybe 3 would be fine. 4 is a bit excessive, or you can just follow along. And then we're going to select all of this over here, press 3 and just select everything here, press X, delete faces. And currently I am quite happy with this. So now all I need to do is go to our modify properties, press tab to go into object mode, add modifier. We're going to use a mirror modifier, and if we use this mirror modifier, we can just select Z. And knowing that we just want to create this one lip over here, and if you want, you could adjust this image, background image, to match more appropriately. So you can select it and just scale it in. So you have a rough idea. I wouldn't use it religiously or anything, but it does give you some perspective. Something like that should be good enough. Right, now that we've done that, make sure it's not selectable, and we go back to the CAD. Now, one thing we know for sure, press tab, 3, choose this top face, make sure the top face is selected, good, and we can press, well, if we pressed S, we'd get this, which would be appropriate, but I'm going to press X to delete this face because it's not working for me. Press 2, select all of this, press F to fill, and then press numpad 7. And then I'm going to press I. I'm going to bring it up to about there. In fact, I'm going to bring it up just a little bit further, just in case it extends a little bit over. And then from there, I can now press E to bring it down. I'm going to go negative 0.05. Negative 0.05. That should be more than enough. Right, the next thing we want to do is press 2 for edge select, and we're going to just hold in Alt and Shift and select all these edges here. With all of them selected, we can press Control B, bevel them a little bit, and then scroll up 1, 2, 3, and click. And just like that, we have a nice smooth rim. Now, the next thing you'll notice in the Coke can, if we turn X-ray back on, there is some sort of lip here. You could, if we just hide that, you can see there's some sort of lip going on here, and we will create our own version of this, but we don't have to focus too much on this because it's not going to be noticed in our scene. So we'll do the bare minimum here because it's pretty much done. There we go, numpad 7. I'm going to press, in fact, I'm going to leave it. I'm just going to focus on that hole because it's the only thing that might be noticeable. G, S, Y. Now, one thing we could do here, Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, we could take this image, top image, and select it, and we can just rotate it. I'm just going to rotate it quickly so that it's perfectly aligned. So it's much easier to guess if we're on the right track or not. Alright, now with it there, we can go back here, make that deselectable, tab I, S to scale this down if you didn't get it enough, lift it up, G. I'm doing everything in top orthographic view. S, Y, S, X, yeah, SX, there we go. G, SX, SY, a little bit bigger, I guess. Something like that. That's what the can has for a hole. And we could just press I to select this, and then with that selected, I'm just going to press G, Z, numpad 7, 3, choose this, X, delete this face, tab to go into object mode, and we're just going to view this. Now looking at this, I think it's there we go. It's because of the mirror was messing with that a little bit. Alright, so now we've got this can, and I'm just going to apply this quickly, and I'm going to go to the bottom of our can that no one will actually see, and I'm going to lazily just select all of this, zoom in, Shift Alt, select all of this, Shift Alt, select all of this, press X, delete faces, and then 2, Alt, F, fill, and then maybe press I, G, Z, let's bring it in slightly, which is just, in my view, that's already overkill considering no one will see that. Alright, now that we've got our can unfortunately doesn't look right, so we're going to, number one, right click, shade smooth, and then we're going to add a subdivision surface, maybe chuck this on 2 or 3 should be fine. Simple is not good, you want to leave it on Catmull Clark, and you can decide how you want to go about this. Now before we move on, we must acknowledge that certain parts of this can will have a logo and certain parts will be metal, and the way we decide that is with our vertex groups. So I'm going to create a vertex group here, and I'm going to call this silver part of can, and I'm going to press tab to go into object mode, turn X-ray on, zoom in, and we know that the silver part of the can is this part over here. In fact, we can do this and just select this, as well as holding in Shift. You do the same to the bottom. And you can press assign. Deselect, select. Now that's perfect. Now we can create another vertex group, and we can say label part of can. So this is where the label goes. And if I believe if I press, hold on, Control I, it will invert it. Sorry, it's been a while since I've used that, so I'm going to press assign, deselect. So now if I select the silver part, I get that. If I select the label part, I get that. So that's perfect. Now I can go back to solid view mode, tab, object mode. Now the next thing we want to add, let's go up here, is the color, the material. And the material type that I want to use is glossy. Why? Because it's a can. And then in the search bar, I'm going to type in image here. Oh, by the way, just in case you don't have it enabled, preferences, add-ons, make sure you got, I don't even have it enabled. Explains a lot. Enable Node Wrangler. There we go. Shift A and type in image texture. Once you've done that, you can press open. In and find that image texture. And we can change to this material viewport, and you'll be left with this, and it doesn't look right. So I'm going to press Control T. Because I have Node Wrangler installed, I can do that, and there's a few things we can do here. Alright, so the first thing you want to do here is change this to generated, leave it on point, and you can leave everything the way it is here in terms of its mapping, and change from flat to tube. And I am quite happy with that for now. Even though it's overlapping on the silver part, it seems to be working. So I'll just leave that as is for now. Tube, clip, single, sRGB. And we can adjust with the shininess later. And I'm just going to press File, Save. Just make sure you save it. And once it's saved, we're going to create a new material. By the way, this first material, let's just call it over here, cola label part, so we know what it's referring to. And since we know what it's referring to, we might want to add the silver part so we can separate the two. So let's go up here, this new part here, we're going to press New, cola can silver part or metal part, whatever you want to call it. And once again, I am going to switch to glossy and maybe put this on 0.15. We can always adjust it. And what I'll do here is I'll press tab to go into edit mode, go to my vertex group, and I'm going to deselect. I'm going to select the silver part. And then I'm going to click Assign. And just to be safe, what we could do is tab, deselect, select, go to our material, choose the cola part, press Assign. And we can try 0.15 as well, and you can have a nice shiny can. Now we can press Shift A, Mesh, S10, and I'm going to press New, and I'm just going to stick with glossy, but make sure this is a bit more rough, and choose red. The other thing I'm going to do is go and add an environmental texture. You can go to hdrihaven.com, environmental texture. Let's go to downloads. I'll just use any random one. It doesn't matter. I'm just using the illumination of this later on, will make sense. You'll only see it in your render view. Currently our render settings is on Eevee. We're going to change to cycles. And I'm going to change to GPU compute. And I'm going to go to the world settings where this image is. I'm going to change the strength for the time being to 0.1. I'm going to press numpad 1. And now I get to add the rig. But before I do, let me add the rig quickly. So I'm going to press Shift A. We're going to create a new collection now. This is going to be called our camera and light rig. Shift A, empty, circle S10, SX90, Control Z, sorry, RX90 to rotate it 90 degrees. Then we can press GZ5. And that does look appropriate. Now we need to click on our light source. Now I'm going to take our camera and chuck it in here, as well as our one single light, which is not going to be enough for the scene. And I'm just going to view this from the camera's position. Currently our camera isn't in a good position, so I'm just going to find a good angle, a good starting angle. Maybe something like this would do. Control Alt numpad 0. And I'm going to select my camera, press G, chuck this to the middle, quite happy with that being dead center. Perhaps go G, Z, just lift this up slightly to about there. And that should be good. And I'm going to press RZ just to rotate this to match S2. There we go. Then I'm going to press Control V to duplicate this. Then I'm going to click on the duplicate, and I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. On the x-axis, so I'm going to press 90 degrees and press X twice. And with that done, I'm going to press, well, let's stick to the camera view. I'm going to press G, and I believe is it Y? Y? No. X, X, Z, Z. Yeah, Z, Z twice to get the local coordinates of this. Like that should be fine. It's not within the frame. The other thing I'll do, just to make it easier to see what the score is, I'll do that. Oh, hold on. Let's create a new window. So this is our render view at the moment. And this is what we've got. All right, so the next thing we want to do is fix the lighting. So we'll click on this first light here, and currently it's set as a point light, which is fine. Numpad 7. I am going to have a couple of point lights here. So the first point light, numpad 7, is, one sec, just double checking my notes here, sorry about that. There we go. Okay, the camera is positioned there. Right, so the first light, I'm going to bring this over here. And then I'm going to press R. In this case, I'm just going to bring it down to about here. And I'm going to give it a strength of 2000. And I'll kind of just leave it as is. Let's remove this. Change it to a spotlight actually, and everything else looks fine. We just got to make it move on the actual object. So you can press numpad 7 over here, rotate this to about here. There we go. And currently I don't see the light, which is a little bit concerning. Just go to our render settings, GPU compute, full global illumination. Get to the rest later. For whatever reason, I had to delete the light, so I just pressed Shift A, and I added a new spotlight. And after adding a new spotlight, I put the strength on 2000, and then I went to Object Constraint Properties, and I selected Track To, and I selected the target being the cylinder. And the cylinder, which we could probably rename, is the cola can. And the plane we could probably rename as the ground. And now when we look at it, we can see that the spotlight is working, which is great. And we can decide to, let's select the spotlight, we can decide to mess with the strength. Let's make it 5000. Or let's leave it on 2000 for now. And let's add the other lights. Right, so I'm going to just press Control C, Control V, and I can just move this around. Looks like I duplicated the can. Undo that. I'm just going to select the spotlight, Control C, V. Oh, so it automatically duplicates the can because I have that constraint. Okay, well then I'm just going to create a new spotlight each time. Sorry about that. Shift A, light, spot, G, Z, GZ5, which is up there, and then I'm going to add the constraint, track to, curler can, and then I'm going to go to the strength, which should be at least probably 2000. And over here, I'm just going to view how it looks so I can see what the score is. Numpad 7. Alright, that's not looking too bad. So this one we're going to change to maybe a point light. So go point. So it lights up the area around here, creates a bit of definition, and we could possibly remove the constraint because it doesn't really apply, and press Control C, V, G, and just move another one over here. On the direct opposite side. And then we could bring another one, and we'll adjust with the string shift, Control C, V, G. And I'm just going to go over here, press G, Z, so we get that interesting light. Now, one thing we need to play around with here, with all these lights, is just the strength of these lights. So currently this spotlight isn't really illuminating our object the way we want, but it might be linked to this. Let's put this on 1. That defeats the point of everything, so let's chuck this on 0.5. I'm going to leave this on 0.2, and then I'm going to mess with the material texture on here, which is probably too rough. Let's put this on not rough enough, 0.5, where we can still see a shine. See, even the top here, I'm not liking the silver part being that shiny. 0.5. Ah, come on, silly me. Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. Right, let's go to the next part, materials, click on the silver part, and change this to 0.4, 0.3. It needs to still be shiny, but not too shiny. I think this should be fine. Maybe we can go 0.25. Yeah, that's good enough. And maybe let's mess with this to 0.3. There we go. That's what we're talking about. Alright, now that we've created the can, we can add the water droplets, which would be the next step. Alright, but before we do, let's just finish this camera rig. So now that we've got everything set up here and the lighting is how we like it, we need to add everything to the camera rig. So we're going to, this empty over here, we're going to rename camera rig. And then with the empty selected first with the light orange, we're going to hold in shift, select the camera, this plane over here, which is going to be the background. In fact, let's rename this quickly to background. Background. So we select the camera rig, hold in shift, and then select everything else. Well, we'll select the bottom part first, and we're going to press Control P and set it to parent. Holding Shift, select the other two, Control P, Control P. There we go. So what this means is when we rotate this on these, let's rotate on the Z-axis 90 degrees, the lighting remains perfect for the ground, for the background, the can and everything, but it allows us to see all different aspects of the can if we want to animate this later. So that's going to be the core part of our setup. Now that we've done the camera rig, we could focus on the condensation on the can, which we're going to use a basic particle system to do that. So step number 1, select your can, and then we're going to go to our particle properties, and we're going to create a new particle system, and we're going to say big droplets, and there's going to be a few things we do here to make this work. We're going to change it to hair, tick, advanced. We're going to make this 500, and you can decide on the seeding later for the variation as you please. I'm going to make the thickness for the time being 1.5, and then we're going to go to source, make sure jittered changes to random, and one thing you want to check when you're with your can selected is that all the faces are the correct orientation, and it is. If you saw red, we would have to flip the normals, but the only red we see is inside of the can, which means everything is A-OK. No normals that need to be flipped. So everything is working perfectly. So now we can just turn off, here we go, turn off face orientation and just carry on doing what we're doing. And we now need to go to our, turn on our rotation, and we need to select an object, which we will, but for the time being we're just going to put this on normal, and then we're going to go to our render settings, and we need to change this to a collection, and I'm going to put this on 0.04, and I like to have the max amount of randomness. I put this on 1, and now we have to select a collection. We don't have a collection yet, so we're going to create one now. We have an empty collection here, so perhaps we can rename this can particles. Can particles. Now with can particles selected, we can now press Shift A, mesh, and we're going to use a UV sphere. Click over here, and we're going to reduce this to 6 and 3, perhaps even less. The reason why we're making it less is because we want to make sure your computer doesn't die. 4 and 3, let's try that, and press G, and we're going to move this, or we can just remove this quickly. We're going to press G, X, and we're just going to chuck it over here. Right click, shade smooth, and what we could do is a bit counterintuitive, but you can disable this in your render if you don't want to see it and only have it render out correctly. But I have a good enough computer where I can leave this turned on. I'm going to leave this on 2, and it's already a very odd shape. I'm going to press tab to go into edit mode. Shift Alt S. Now it's sphere-like, I guess. Press 1. Select this top piece over here, and press G, Z. Just lift it up like that a little bit. Select this bottom pieces here. G, Z. Lift it up. Make it flat. Then we can press S, Z, because droplets are thicker on the flatter on the bottom and sharper on the top. G, Z. Alright, the next thing we can do is press numpad 7, and I'm just going to press G, turn on this so I can select all of them. G, and just bring this in so it's flat, a little bit flatter. Right, and we're going to call this droplet 1, and you can create your own droplets that you think look more appropriate. And we are going to give this a quick material just so we can see how it looks. Glass material, and this has to be on 1.33. And I'm going to go over here, click over here, zoom in quickly so we can see what's going on. And yeah, now that we've got that droplet selected, we can continue with the particle system before we add other droplets for variation, to make sure it works. So we'll scroll down and we'll select the can particles. Oh, hold on, stick to render view and just zoom in. Now for me, those can particles are a little bit too small, so I'm just going to go here to the size and go 0.06. What's a bit big? So I'm going to go 0.05. And you know what? That's good enough for me. But now we also want to go to the sides here and just see how they fit. Now see, they're a little bit too flat here for my liking. As accurate as it might be, I'm not a fan. Also, the material doesn't seem to be on, so let me just quickly click on that and call this droplet material. If we made this blue, okay, it is on, so that's odd. Let's go back to hex 1 2 3 1 2 3 6 Fs. There we go. Okay, so now I'm just going to go to the original droplet and go to it and just press numpad 7, tab, and then select this and press G. And GY would be correct. Select this top piece here, numpad 1. Have it a little bit more round like that. That looks like a droplet. And then go back here. Yeah, so I'm preferring that by a lot. So now all we need to do is go back to that droplet and create variations thereof. So I'm going to press Control C V G X, and we can just do stuff like this. And don't have to think about it too much. Every droplet has its own unique flavor, I guess. Control C V G X tab, and this one we might decide to say, you know what, something like that. And I'm just going to use these 3 examples in this. It should be enough, and we can go over here and see how they stick. And they all seem to be sticking just fine. Now, see, now that isn't exactly right, so I think that would be this droplet. Yeah, so I'm just going to fix that. Let me go to that droplet over here, press tab to go into edit mode. And now to align it better, what you can do is press G, hold on, A to select all. Oh no, that's not good. G, okay, I can see why this doesn't look 100% right. It's on this rim. So what we could do here in this case, just before we decide to mess with this any further, we could change the seed. Actually, that doesn't look 100% right, and I'm pretty sure it's this one. Yes. G, Y, G, Y, and you can just bring it more in if you feel being more in is more appropriate. You can do the same with all of them. So you can look at this, but I prefer to look at them from the side where possible. G, Y. In this case, I want to rotate this 180 degrees, rotate on the y-axis 180 degrees, and then press GY. And that's looking pretty good. Alright, now that we've done that, can particles. We're going to use these same can particles to create an additional particle system. So we're going to press plus, small droplets, small droplets. And yeah, we can put this on 2000. Oh, change it to here, 2000, 1.5 random collection can particles 0.015 complete randomness tab. Well, deselect that. And that's looking pretty good. And we can just scroll down here. And I think we're pretty much done with this. The only thing I'd like to do is click on rename this to small droplets. Maybe even put it on 3000. Put that on 1 to make it really small. 1.2. I'll leave it on 1.5, but then just go to the big droplets and definitely try and increase this 0.06. See how that looks. And let's just confirm the environmental texture quickly. We've got one, and let's just render out an image just to see how it looks. Alright, so you know what? I think that's good enough. I quite like that. Now, the one thing we're going to add is droplets to the bottom of our scene. And I'm going to select this can, go to it, press numpad 7, select this ground, press tab to go into edit mode, press 3 for face select, press I to invert a selection. Something like that should do. Right click, subdivide, something like that should be fine. Shift Alt S, bring it into some sort of sphere, then press I. Something like that should be perfect. Then 3 and choose this middle face. Oh, undo. I've got a better idea. Let's just select all of this and delete those faces. And delete this edge. Just do the same over here. 3 for face select. Delete faces. 2 select the edges. Delete edges. Alright, 2 select the edges, Alt, go all the way around. F to fill, I. Alright, now that we've done that, we're going to go to a vertex group and we're going to call this particle location. And the reason why we create a barrier like this, because if you choose this as your location, it will bleed over to the next barrier automatically. So that's why we created a couple of barriers here, so we have a bit more control. And now we can go to our particle system, and we're going to create a particle system here. Probably put this in about 2000, and we're going to create a new collection. We're going to say ground particles. Let's get that right. And I'm going to select all three of these droplets, Control C, Control V. Now these droplets are in the ground section as well, but we will modify them. And I'm going to leave this on 1.5 and change this to random. And where is rotation? I keep on missing that. Did I do rotation for the can? Yeah, I did. Okay, cool. So let's go back here. I think I forgot to turn on advanced. There we go. There's rotation, normal, and then we can go to collection and ground particles. And currently you see it everywhere, but if we choose the, not the field weight, the vertex group, the density should be in the particle location. Now, so currently it's if we wanted to go to the outer rim, all we need to do is press 2, Alt, X, dissolve edges. And there you go, it's all the way out to the outer rim, which is quite nice. And we might decide to make it less, we'll see in a second. Let's go back to the particle settings, ground particles. I think less will definitely be the case, 0.08. And let's put this on 500. And now we can go on each individual one. Press S. If we just scale it up, it'll get big. Limit to the Z. Press Shift Z, or Shift X, Shift Y. Here we go. Select the next one. Well done. And also let's rotate this 180 degrees. Rotate it on the y-axis 180 degrees. Actually, that doesn't make sense. We already rotated it, so we don't have to do it again. Let's choose the next droplets and press S to scale this out. Only on the Shift Y, G, Y, S, X. And we'll do the same with the last one. S, S, Y, G, G, Y. And I can just mess with the distribution, perhaps make it a bit smaller. The idea is that it needs to be bigger than this. I think you get the idea though. I'm not going to go crazy here. 0.8, 500. Let's take a quick look. 0.8 is too small. 1.5. 500 is too much. Let's make it 150. Yeah, that looks good enough. All right, just like that, we are done. Now the last thing we can do is create the animation. So we'll go to our timeline, and we'll go to our camera rig, and we'll select the camera rig, and we'll hover our mouse over here, and we'll press I to insert a keyframe, and click rotation. And then we'll press, then we'll go change to frame, let's say 120. let's make the animation end at 120. And then we'll press I. Well, then we'll press R to rotate this. And then we'll rotate it on the Z axis. And you'll type in 360 to do a full loop-de-loop. And then we'll press I, rotation. And for the sake of just briefly showing you what that does, I'll switch to Eevee. And it does that. So you get to see the full Coke can in all its glory. And all you have to do now is render it out in an Eevee or Cycles and you're ready to go. Anyways, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope you enjoyed this tutorial.